Hello, and welcome to Fashion Frames, where we talk about the real impact of AI in the fashion industry and, of course, the future of tech. And today I have Manish with me. So, from leading B2B e-commerce and sales operations at Esprit to working with adidas, where you, Manish, led the digital transformation program, to also launching your own startup, you've worked across Europe, the Middle East, and India. And you're really using emerging tech like AI and augmented reality and also virtual reality to reshape how the fashion industry operates, and both behind the scenes, but also in front of the scenes, in front of the customer. So your career is super, super interesting, and I'm happy to have you today on this podcast.
Thanks a lot, Charlotte, for having me. And I'm also very excited about our conversation today.
So there's a huge difference in general with AI for internal workflows versus consumer-facing experiences. From your perspective, what track should brands decide to focus on first, and what delivers the most value?
Hmm. That's a very interesting question, especially if you look at the AI buzz today all around. All the industries are talking about how AI is going to change and revolutionize things. But at the same time, I think I am someone I would call myself someone who is cautiously optimistic about AI. The reason why I'm using the words cautiously optimistic is because, like you said, there is a difference in how we use AI behind the scenes for our back office operations versus how we use this technology for our front-facing, consumer-facing interfaces. Now, when we look at the back office operations, there are tons of opportunities for us to improve things there, and a lot is already in motion. For example, AI is already being used today to do a lot of manual work, to replace a lot of manual work. For example, the product attributes creation, product descriptions creation, product titles creation. Now you can have customized product descriptions for each marketplace that you want to be live on. And that's just at the snap of a finger. So you could do all of that. There was a recent report by Otrium in the news where they're also using AI to generate product attributes from product images all automatically. Yeah. So this is how they are optimizing their operations and becoming more profitable. In the end, and the money that they save from the usage of technology can be better utilized in growing the business then. So similarly, there are also very complicated, very complex calculations today that we perform, for example, in forecasting, where our AI once again can help a lot. It's already being used because in fashion industry, one of the nightmares of every brand is NOS. So never out of stock, right? So this is the risk that the brands carry. Whereas the seasonal product is something where, especially in the wholesale part of the business, the risk is carried by the wholesale partners. So especially for the NOS business, for example, it's very important that the brands get the forecast right. You get the forecast wrong, so either you undersell or you overbuy. So to avoid the situation now, once again, AI is being used. The advanced AI models are being used to predict the NOS quantities that you would need. So we are going through, I think, a twilight phase right now, where the brands are getting more and more aware of how AI can be used, first behind the scenes, and slowly now they are also coming in the front and seeing how this can be used in front of the consumers as well.
I think that's a great collection of examples here. Can you also maybe drawn from your time at Esprit and Adidas, maybe walk us through AI, how it helped internally and really made a difference? Something that you can disclose?
So yeah, I think I can disclose, of course, a few things, not everything though. So I can tell you, for example, at Esprit, we also used AI to generate product attributes and product descriptions using product images. So something that used to take us days and weeks now could be done in just a matter of hours, and with a great accuracy as well. So sometimes we feel that if the AI is replacing, is making things more efficient, it might also be fraught with errors, etc. But to tell you the truth, what we found in my experience was that the results that we got from AI were more consistent, more accurate. So to the extent of even being up to 95% accurate. So we were quite enthusiastic about it. Yes, that was really incredible. And especially when you, okay, now if you look at, since we're talking in the context here of B2B e-commerce, if you look at how a B2B business goes, so during this sell-in period, when you are selling into the wholesale partners, at that point in time, the window is very narrow for you to prepare for sell-in because you are constantly coming up with new collections and you have to keep preparing for the launch. And the window is very small for you, where you have to come up with all the product images, the descriptions, the titles, the attributes, everything, and you need to get everything right. The brand imagery. So there's a lot that needs to be done to prepare for sell-in. And during that time, being able to generate product descriptions and titles and product attributes in a matter of hours is really, really helpful, because that cuts down the preparation time quite a lot, as you can imagine. So that's sort of game changing when it comes to wholesale business, because up until now, the sell-in preparation has been a nightmare for every brand. So that's a crunch time when the teams are super busy, everybody is into it, and still people are like burning midnight oil. So all of that is now kind of taken away, or can be taken away if this technology is used more effectively. Similarly, if I can also draw on my experience at Adidas, so there were various use cases that we tried at Adidas. One of the use cases that I can talk about is the recommendations. So of course, there is a huge potential also, once again, in coming up with the right recommendations for both our wholesale partners as well as for our consumers. So once again, there was a big AI use case in improving the recommendations for the customers. Once again, if I focus a little bit first on the wholesale business, imagine if you are a wholesale partner and you have to make a selection from a range of 12,000 options. How difficult or easy would it be for you? I'm sure it's going to be very, very difficult, right? So once again, if with the help of AI, you can narrow down the assortment that will be relevant for your customer quite a lot. And then you can of course further refine the recommendations made by the AI engine. But it already once again cuts down the effort substantially. So that's once again the power of AI in fashion industry. Once again, we are still talking about use cases which are either in the back office or not visible directly to the end consumers. So it's in the wholesale domain for now.
Exactly. But when AI then touches the consumer directly, how do you ensure that it really adds value? Because for a lot of people, it feels like it's just this trend right now. It's omnipresent. How do you add value?
That's a very interesting question that even I would be completely honest. I'm also experimenting with, because I don't think anybody has cracked the code here yet on how to use AI effectively in the consumer domain safely. A lot of it has to do with also statutory framework as well. So you need to be really clear about this statutory framework before you introduce something in the consumer domain. Also, the other aspect is the consumer acceptance. Every technology goes through a certain phase. There's a phase where people are kind of unsure of the technology. Then at some point, they're maybe even a little bit afraid about the technology. And then there comes this phase of acceptance, right? Now we are going through, I think, a phase where there is much greater acceptance for AI in the consumer domain as well. And this is the part where I become a little bit more cautious then. Because back in the days, when I thought of introducing digital models, etc., so we wanted to gauge the consumer acceptance for that, and we commissioned an internal study. The result of the internal study was that there is still a lot of apprehension about the usage of AI in the consumer domain. Now, this was a few years ago. Since then, things have moved on quite a lot. Now, people have gotten a little bit more used to seeing AI-generated images on social media. So the acceptance has grown now. The curve, so we are on the inflection point now, where things will start changing. Some of the brands, especially some of the smaller brands, have already started using AI even in the consumer domain. So some brands have already started using AI for their product image generations as well, for example. Bigger brands have more to lose, so they are still being cautious there in that area. And I was wondering about it, why it is that consumers are uh, not readily accepting the AI in the consumer domain, especially when it comes to, for example, the use case of product images. So generating product images using AI. Why is it that there is still some apprehension in the consumer minds about that? And I think one of the reasons that I could think of was that when you do something, when you use technology in the back office operations or behind the scenes or in wholesale business where the consumers don't really see it firsthand, then they're okay with that. However, when we talk about something which is complete, which is right in front of their eyes, it makes it more visceral for them. So you see that there is a model wearing a nice outfit, and they are okay with that. They're okay with that. They like the picture, but the moment they come to know that this picture is generated using AI, then they are like, oh, so does it mean that we are taking away jobs from the models now? So since they are establishing some sort of connection with the person that they see in the picture, I think that kind of makes it more real for them. And that's why there is still a little bit of apprehension in the consumer minds about accepting AI in that domain.
I believe that a lot of consumers don't actually know how much AI is out there because
Exactly.
oftentimes it's not necessarily visible, right? Especially when it's just product photography and sometimes even without the model. Because with humans in it or with AI generated models, I feel like it's still visible once in a while. Um, but I think that would bring me to the H&M digital twin campaign that they launched as an example here, because I feel that they were really bold. They're one of the first big brands now coming out and saying, like, okay, we are going to use digital twins, but their approach was very different from other brands. They decided to work with the models and create digital copies with them, and everything, all the content they create with it is agreed upon with the model. And in the end, they're collaborating also with the agencies to putting in consent and authenticity in the center of
Mhm.
the process. That's how they called it. Um, how do you feel about their approach? Do you think that's just a very bold innovation to go that route? And also, will it stick?
So my take on that is once again, of course, it's a bold move. Um, I think there are always some brands, some people who come up who are bold enough to venture into territories which are uncharted, and that's where we move forward. That's where the innovation happens, right? So I think, but and I also agree with their approach. Like I said, so there is when it comes to the AI adoption in the consumer domain, sometimes there is this misgivings in the minds of consumers that, hey, with this AI, are we taking away jobs from people? But as long as you can address those concerns, I think the consumers are ready now. Just that they need to get that confidence that we are talking about AI, usage of AI in an ethical manner. So nobody is being exploited here. Everybody is being treated fairly. The credits are being given where they're due. Everybody is being, being treated fairly. So if this nervousness in the minds of the consumers can be addressed, and that is that's a very great step forward, because then the potential, the opportunities are limitless. Then we can go further. Because right now, I think that I've been repeating this multiple times. I think the acceptance of consumers is for me is a very big thing, and the once that is there, then we can push the boundaries even further, because then the real use cases of technology can come into the play, even not just behind the scenes but also in the front.
I was wondering because in the end, this approach that H&M is taking is going to be much more expensive than just generating models based on, let's say, the data of the internet, making up new human beings with AI. To break it down in a very easy and understandable way, they're just using a digital copy of an existing human being and then
Mhm.
paying that human being for the rights of using that copy. So I was really wondering when I saw it if that will stick, because in the end, in fashion, it's oftentimes all about profits and cutting the costs. And that is a more expensive approach. So I do personally think that it's nice that they try to find a way to make this a bit more approachable and ethical. But I'm kind of doubting if all brands can go with such an approach, or if in the end this the cheaper solution will win, basically.
I think it's about economies of scale once again. So you're right that of course fashion industry also wants profit, just like any other industry for that matter. So we're not the only culprits here, yeah. So of course everyone, every country, every company, every industry wants to make profit. They want to do it at the lowest possible cost. The same with us. The approach that they have taken, I think this approach might stick at least for foreseeable future. Yes, like I said, if the acceptance grows, then we can push the boundaries even further. But so there is this mental block that we need to kind of overcome first from the consumer side. And as with regards to costs, yes, this approach will be costly in the beginning, though I haven't done the numbers on this myself. But if I were to take a guess, I think the initial investment would pay off in the long run. So once you go through collections after collections. So after 2 or 3 collections, this should pay you back because then you're cutting down on the time required to generate images, the photo shoot, the resources that are required for photo shoot. They also go down substantially, and also, of course, the actual cost also goes down that you incur from the model side, etc. Because you are paying them, of course, but it's not like they have to stand in front of the camera for 8 hours. So overall, I think after 1 or 2 seasons, there should be economies of scale there, and there should be returns coming your way.
Yeah. H&M also announced that they are opening up so that other brands across the globe can use these digital twins. So actually, the models own the digital twins that H&M
Uh-huh.
created, which I think is a very interesting way of getting them on board with this initiative. But now that we talked a little bit about um, how it works in a brand like H&M and M and how they're trying to ease in the customer, do you feel like authenticity can take a hit, or the feeling of trust and authenticity in a brand can take a hit if they would use only digital models, for example? Would consumers trust a brand like that?
This is, I think, the testing ground right now, where we will also see how it goes. What I have observed is that the acceptance is growing. The technology is getting better. Sometimes you can tell the difference that yes, this is a digitally created image, and sometimes you cannot. Eventually, if we look at the purpose of the photo shoot on model, is to give the consumer a feel for the product, right? You can just have the product on a dummy as well, um, yeah, or as we call the ghost images. You can have those as well. But why do we need on model images? So that you get a feel of how the product, the garment drapes on the body, how it feels, what the styling looks like. So there are a lot of things that you want to understand as a consumer, and that's why the on model pictures are so important. Now, as long as that purpose can be fulfilled by a digital image as well, and even if the consumer can tell the difference that this is an AI generated image, will they really care? That's a big question mark. As long as they get better feel for the product, because now let's imagine this. Today, when you do a shoot on the model, you can only create maybe what, 2 or 3 angles, maybe 4 angles, so 4 perspectives. But what if, with the help of AI, now I can give you many more perspectives, many more camera shots, many more angles. Now the consumer can get even better feel for the product, what it looks like, what it feels like, or what it would feel like on the body. And that could be even better. That's a better value proposition for the consumers also. And that's what I meant, that if we can get past the initial mental block, then the possibilities are limitless. There are many more potentialities that we can go after. But once we overcome this mental block from the consumer side. A lot of consumers are already moving forward. Some are yet to catch on the bus, and this will take some more time. But with the way AI is growing, everybody is coming hearing AI every day. I think this might be sooner than later.
So AI is this like shiny new thing, as you just
Yes.
mentioned. It's new and everyone hears about it, and everyone is excited about it or also scared. I mean, people have opinions, but I believe not every innovation actually needs to be shiny and new. Sometimes real value also comes from scaling what already works and learning from what doesn't. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more in general about your digital innovation knowledge, what you've experienced. What are the innovations that had the most long-lasting impact on the ones you worked with so far?
That's a very interesting question. Uh, so first thing, one thing that I have learned during my career so far is that now I stay away from the word revolutionize. Yeah. So every
Haven't
time
we all used it way too much?
because every time we hear this word, we hear about a new technology, and immediately people associate the word revolutionize with that technology.
Mhm.
This is going to revolutionize the industry. This is going to revolutionize the world. A few years ago, when we heard about blockchain technology, and everybody was like, blockchain is going to revolutionize everything. It's going to change the way we work, the change we operate, change the way we conduct business. There will be smart contracts, there will be this and that and everything, right? Blockchain has been used, no doubt. Blockchain is there. We all are using blockchain directly or indirectly somehow because it's being used behind the scenes. Just that it's not there in the front as people predicted. It's not, it hasn't really revolutionized anything in that sense. There is a gradual curve that this technology also going through. Some technologies continue to evolve with time, and some also see a phase out as well. Or some find their own niches. So some technologies get used in certain niche areas only, right? Now, in that sense, I have also seen many different innovations throughout my journey, and I think all of the technologies or the innovations that I saw, I wouldn't say that any one of them had a very lasting impact or something which revolutionized everything. Everything has gone through a curve. Every technology took some time to mature, and they have found their niches, their use cases. For example, when we look at 3D, for example, once again, 8 years ago, when I first heard about 3D in fashion, and it was all about it's going to revolutionize everything. We even thought about, you know, completely transforming the way we design and create our products. So we said, okay, we're going to make 3D first. Yeah. So digital first, physical later. Physical follows digital. That's the mindset that we wanted to evolve. And that meant that the designers should start designing in 3D, the factories should start producing using those 3D samples. We should start selling also to consumers using those 3D images, everything 3D. How did it really go? 8 years down the line, I see, and this 3D, let me take a step back. The 3D technology was also coupled a lot with the virtual reality and augmented reality, right? There
Mm,
was a lot of hype around virtual reality, and people had those
yeah.
glasses, and everybody thought that we're going to live in virtual worlds. People started buying lands in the virtual worlds. So a lot of, once again, buzz happened around 3D and virtual reality around that time. It's been 6, 7 years since then. Where are we now with virtual reality? Virtual reality hasn't disappeared. It's still there. It's still being used, and you being used very effectively in certain areas, in certain use cases. It has found its niche where it's being used. In future, maybe virtual reality will gain more acceptance in our day-to-day lives as well. But the technology has to go through its own curve. There are still a lot of kinks in the technology that needs to be addressed. The scaling issue is still there. It works very well for small use cases, but when you scale the use case to fashion industry, where you have uh, thousands of products, and you're talking about creating a virtual showroom every season, every 6 months, if not every 3 months, then the scaling problem hits everyone. And then that's why it hasn't scaled to that extent that people predicted. A lot of startups came in the virtual reality area and everybody said, hey, here's a virtual showroom. And now we don't need a physical showroom at all because everybody can just go to the virtual showroom, buy off of that. Did it happen? Not yet. So technologies evolve. They find their own niches. They find their own use cases. But the initial hype, of course, sometimes dies very quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know that VR and AR was adapted quite nicely from the automotive industry when it
Mm,
comes to cars. And that I think is because there are not that many products, right? You mentioned the sheer amount of products and creating one car and then selling this model in different colors over a span of a year. It's
exactly.
much more efficient than creating 150 different garments, and also it needs to drape nicely. A car is more static, and 3D still has its issues with like fabric simulation. So I think those are the things that were overlooked in the beginning. But it's still, I mean, 3D is still used, and I know that especially for pattern design departments and
Mm.
like early development phases, it is gold. Um, but yeah, I agree. So, my question then is, was there a transformation project that you've been part of or that you planned that didn't go as planned? And what do you think, like, is there to learn from that?
Yes, of course. There have been projects which didn't go as per the plans. Um, so I wouldn't really say that there were failures. I would say there were learnings along the journey. There were recalibrations of expectations also along the journey. So, for example, the project, the with 3D, so that we envisaged. So initially, we were of the mindset that okay, it's going to revolutionize everything. We're going to transform everything, and it's going to happen very quickly from one season to another. Um, but along the journey, we realized that we need to recalibrate our expectations, both from once again from the consumer point of view, from a technology point of view, from the readiness of all the parties involved in the process perspective as well. So, for example, just because the technology is there doesn't mean that it's going to get used. You need to train people on the technology. You need to find new people who can use that technology. You need to make sure that the suppliers that you work with, they can work with that technology. So everybody needs to upgrade. The whole ecosystem needs to come up. The whole ecosystem needs to adopt that. So you need to come up with pilot use cases, develop it further, treat it like a startup, then grow it further. So the digital transformation program that I'm referring to here, that was a massive program. I had great learnings during that program. And like I said, it was a journey along which we also had a lot of learnings and recalibration of expectations. Eventually, we realized that things cannot be as we imagined at the beginning. Also, from the technology point of view. Now, for example, if you look at 3D, yes, it's a great technology. It will stay for it will be there forever now. It's there out in the open, and it will keep finding more and more use cases. But once again, when we apply the technology to the fashion industry, it then you have to be cautious about the use cases that you work with. If you thought that you can just design a product in 3D and then you have a 3D file. Now you can create augmented reality out of it. You can create virtual reality out of it. And then you can use this asset to even sell to the consumers. That's the difficult part because it's not as straightforward as it sounds. Um, the sheer problem of taking a 3D asset and converting that into a format that is digestible for consumer applications is a technology nightmare on its own. So
I don't know if I completely agree with you, to be honest. Um, And we can all have our opinions, right? And that's also what I think is so interesting about this podcast, because I had a little bit of different experiences with at least selling B2B, using 3D assets and making pack pictures out of it, and also model images, by combining, for example, we call it VFX, so combining a 3D dress with a real model, and then it actually looked super realistic, to a point where our customers didn't know if it was a photo or a 3D file. So I think it definitely is possible. It was not that big of a nightmare. However, there are limitations always, I feel like. So if the styles became too complex, if you want to do, let's say, a blazer with a lot of sequences, like a lot of feathers and details, then that would become quite difficult. But for example, new styles, NOS styles that you talked about earlier, that are never out of stock styles,
Mhm.
those styles are very easy to do in 3D and also create images to sell from. Yeah, so I agree with you that it has limitations. I don't agree that it's a super, super nightmare, especially for B2B. Um, but I think now with AI, it kind of erases some of the limitations that we had with 3D. I think it can also be combined. What do you think about
Right,
that?
right. So the challenge that I'm referring to here, and then I will come to the point that how AI can help there, was not from the perspective that we cannot generate an image that is digestible by consumer applications from a 3D asset. It is absolutely possible. It's been done a number of times already. It's a beaten path. The problem is that when you look at a 3D asset, which has a very high polygon count, so it's a very high definition file, so to speak,
Correct.
taking that very high definition file and converting that to a format which is digestible by consumer applications. It's like taking a high definition file and converting it to a JPEG file without losing all the details that are relevant from the consumer point of view. You can do it for 100, 200, 300, 500 products easily because there might be some retouching required for some products, and you can do that. But once you have 5,000 products, and not just once, you have it every 6 months, then the cost dynamics of it, the effort dynamics of it, the reliability dynamics of it, that changes. Because let's imagine you have 5,000 products. You miss that retouching on even, let's say, 10 of those. Now, those 10 pictures go out in the consumer domain. And if the picture is not similar to the product, there could be even legal repercussions of that.
Yeah,
So that's
consequences.
where the problem comes from. Now, coming to the second point that you mentioned, that could be interesting because this problem of taking this very high definition file and converting into a format which is digestible by consumer applications, AI can help there. It's a perfect use case for, once again, AI because AI can figure it out much more easily where to reduce the polygon count or where to reduce the high definition in a way that doesn't lose the authenticity of the product. From the consumer point of view, the human eye cannot perceive the difference. You need to reduce the quality in that way, and AI can help in that as in that process quite a lot. This will once again be this could once again be a use case where the consumers will be consuming AI without knowing that they are consuming AI here.
Mhm. Exactly. I feel like that's already happening, but not on a large scale. So that will be interesting to see how that develops. Which brings me to my next and last topic I wanted to talk to you about, um, the future of this whole tech world and fashion. I think with Gen AI
Mhm.
and virtual sampling and in general how all of this, like connected retail experience can help to, connect consumers. I was wondering what will gain traction and what will be left behind. So, in your opinion, what emerging technologies in fashion and retail, are you most excited about, right now, and which ones do you think will succeed?
I think the technologies around uh, digital twins, um, technologies around Gen AI, they are here to stay. So the cat's out of the bag. You can't put it back in now. So it's out of the bag already. Like I said, it's already being used, especially in the social media domain. In some cases, also for the product photo shoots, in different ways, to a lesser extent or to a greater extent. It's already being used now. Gen AI is already being used, and not just for the product descriptions or product content creation. It's also being used in the areas like customer service, right? And that use case is applicable to all industries, not just to fashion industry, but it's applicable to all the industries out there. Um, so the cat is definitely out of the bag, and this genie cannot be put back in the bottle now. It will continue to evolve and grow. With time, I believe that the regulatory framework will also become clearer, and then the usage will become again even more acceptance. So this will continue to grow. Now, the challenge in front of the brands is to make sure that they are ready for it. Now, once again, from my own experience, I can tell you that even though when we meet in our town halls, we talk about change management, we talk about adoption of digital, we talk about adoption of AI in our workplace becoming more efficient, everybody says yes, yes, yes. Everybody is charged up. But when you go back to their desks, then when they go back to their desks, and once again the doubts start creeping up. But hey, we have never done this before. We don't know how to do it. We are not trained for this. We need more training. We don't know what it is, and then the doubts creep up again. So everybody needs to kind of accept that it is there, not just in a town hall meeting, but also when you go back to your desks and start living it, not just speaking about it. I think brands which will do a better job of adopting um, the new technologies, including especially AI, I think they will do better in future. We all know that the industry as a whole is going through a lot of turmoil, a lot of challenges at this point. Even before the current geopolitical situation, even before that, we had these challenges. So the industry is reeling a bit right now, and this is also a great opportunity then for the brands. The brands who do a better job of changing themselves, turning their supply chains around, turning their processes around technology, they will become more efficient, and they are the ones who will survive in the end then.
So you just mentioned mindset, and it sounds like mindset of like internal mindset. You talked also about consumer mindset, but in this case, the mindset of people working for your company, for the brand, um, they that needs to change. They need to be ready for AI. So if now you are exploring AI as a brand and you are serious about implementing it, how can you make sure that this mindset shifts and that you get people on board?
One of the initiatives that I um, recommend to everyone to get around this problem of mindset change is to make sure that people in your company um, can touch and feel the technology that you're talking about. Make them excited about it and take away their fear of the technology. See, if I tell someone today, someone who has been doing a job in a certain way for many, many years, for 10, 15, 20 years, and I tell them, hey, from tomorrow you can do it in a different way. It will take much less time. The first response, which we can expect in most cases, will be that of apprehension and misgivings. But what if I take them through baby steps first? I show them, hey, this is so great. Touch it, you do it. I won't do it for you. I make them do some play around with the small use case themselves. Get them excited about it. Make and take their fear away. And that's the way to go forward, I guess, to tackle this mindset problem. Because these people have great knowledge, they know the processes in and out. You just need to make sure that they are also ready to adopt AI, and you can then leverage their knowledge plus technology to achieve great things. So, but you also need to work with them. It cannot be just that you expect them to change overnight. You need to invest in this mindset change.
Yeah, and I feel like it just needs a little bit of time. People need a little bit of patience because when something like AI, a technology pops up so quickly, and now it's so new and shiny, as we mentioned earlier, everyone says, okay, let's go, let's run with it. But sometimes doing that can kind of have the opposite effect, that people get even more scared of it. And it's so important to have everyone on board and, you know, with joint forces work towards a common goal, and not as a company just jump ahead and be like, okay, now you just need to follow. That's my experience. And also, you always have some front runners who are super excited, and then you'll have some people who are very scared. And bringing them together can also help kind of like find common ground and build teams where you have a little bit of a mix of different opinions. They can find solutions that are sustainable together.
Yeah. And on that note, I would say add just one more thing here. So one of the mistakes that I think most companies make is that uh, they don't provide their employees the right exposure. So when you go to any um, industry conference, any conclave, any summit, who do you see around you? You see the regular
Same people.
faces, the same people over and over again, right? So it's the same people speaking there, same people speaking there, same people, uh, being part of those conferences. How do you expect people who are not there to be excited about these technologies, to know more about these technologies, to experience the world as it's changing, to be part of the world as it's changing? So I am of a I propose this, that we should provide the right exposure to all of our employees, not just to this top brass or to the senior managers, but every employee should get to experience at least some level of uh, the innovation which is happening out there for themselves, not secondhand, but rather firsthand. When they themselves visit these conferences, these conclaves, summits, etc., these knowledge exchange forums, I think they will also get excited about them themselves without somebody having to push it on them. So it becomes a pull model than the push model then.
I love that. I think that is really good advice, and advice I haven't heard before. So thank you so much for sharing that. Last question for today. If you were a fashion CEO today, would you bet on AI, sustainability, or community? And you can only pick one.
That's a hard choice. This is not fair. This
I
is not
always come
fair.
with the hard questions in the end. I'm like, you get one hard one.
Okay, I'll give you my answer, just as
Mhm.
you asked for, one answer, but I will also qualify it further then. Okay,
Sure. Yeah.
I'll go with AI. That will be my answer. Now there comes a qualification for other options. I think sustainability um, will also be there. It's not like we're gonna move away from sustainability. Especially fashion industry cannot afford to do that, because fashion industry is one of the biggest contributors to the global warming, and we cannot avoid this problem. We have to face it. So sustainability will also be there. It will not go away. The efforts in that direction will not go away. Just that the pace in the short to mid run now, I think, will get once again some recalibration. 3 4 years ago, I think everybody was talking about sustainability in a way that we have to change our entire all of our processes, our supply chain, everything. We have sustainability goals that need to be met by 2021, 2022. Now we see a slowing down on those commitments. Why? Because it's not as easy as we thought. Again, so recalibrations are being done at this point. Once again, we will ultimately need to meet those lofty sustainability goals that we set for ourselves a few years ago. We will need to get there for sure. Just that now we will do it in a little bit more um, pragmatic way. So that's my qualification for sustainability.
Thank you very much. No, I think that's a really great answer. And I'm so happy that you had the time to join this podcast today. I've learned a lot, to be honest. For me, that was very inspiring. And I hope that our listeners can also learn from you.
It was great for me also to be on the show. Thanks for having me once again.